And it's National Coffee Day. Did you know that? Did not. Happy National Coffee Day.
Hey.
Oh, thank you. I feel like every day is National Coffee Day, but
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Just celebrate. Always celebrate.
Got-
Okay.
Got my mocha frappuccino right now, so I'm spoiling myself today.
Oh man, that sounds good.
Oh, it's delicious. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dodgeball podcast. In this episode, I was able to bring back Brenda Kramer. Brenda, thank you so much for coming back. I feel bad because I wanted to bring you on just to talk about bells, but then I ended up veering off for like another 20 minutes on just dodgeball, and I was like, this needs to be its own episode. So here we are. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me back. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, for sure. Man, so I'm going to just try to control myself, and let's just kind of start from the beginning. We kind of got into it where I think, if I recall correctly, you started from WeHo. That's where you first started playing dodgeball?
Yeah, WeHo. I subbed one night, a random Thursday night in, what was it, like 4 years ago, 2014. Just a friend of mine had a team and she needed a sub and asked me because I was athletic. So she asked me to play and I just fell in love with it that night and have been playing it pretty much ever since.
So this friend of yours that played, obviously you knew she played dodgeball for some time, or was this like you just found out like one day, oh wow, my friend plays dodgeball. This is wild. Like what did you think of it before you hopped in, if you knew about it previously?
I did not. I had no idea about it. It kind of was like this underground world. That's how she described it to me. But I never even heard of any dodgeball leagues. And it's funny to think about now because, fast forward 4 years and like my whole social life revolves pretty much around dodgeball. But yeah, so we went to a CrossFit gym together. And this was before I got into coaching and personal training. But yeah, she just was on a rec team and just needed a girl sub. So I said, why not? I'll try it. I'm really always down to try things that I like athletically that I've never done before. Just to like try it out and see if I'm good at it. And if I'm not, then I'd try even harder to get better at it.
Oh,
but
wow.
yeah, that's kind of what dodgeball was for me.
So you're not one of those people like, well, you'll try dodgeball, maybe do terrible, and then you never try again. Like you'll stick with it until you get better at it.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's a fault in some aspects because you get stubborn and don't give up. But I think it helps in some ways.
Well, don't try any other sports for fear of losing you.
Don't worry.
That's awesome. So you didn't really, it didn't sound like you had any hesitation. She said, hey, come play dodgeball with me. You sound like, okay, let's do this. Was that more or less accurate? Like you just dove right in?
That's, yeah, exactly. I needed something to do on a Thursday night and I just was like, cool, that sounds fun. Let's do it.
So what was it, if you can recall that night, like, you go to this court, you see all these people playing dodgeball of all things, and they're hurling balls at each other, and they're dodging and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, do you remember what it was specifically about that experience that hooked you?
Okay, so for rewinding 4 years is difficult, but I'll do my best. I think what really struck me was not just the competitiveness, but how happy everybody looked on the court. And my background is actually in basketball. I played all through high school and college. So, seeing a sport that people were playing and kind of getting like that same joy, that joy that I used to get while playing basketball, it kind of came back. My first time playing dodgeball. So, just balls flying at each other, people throwing it as hard as they can, a catch completely changing, the way that a game is going. It was like, oh, I'm familiar with this feeling and I like it. So I want to keep doing it.
That's cool. So a small part of me is like, oh man, I feel some validation finally, where because you take somebody that's coming from conventional sports, especially on the high school and collegiate level, to come into a dodgeball game where it's league or open gym, definitely not elite, right? And to just kind of, wow, like I feel some similarities between organized conventional sports to what I'm seeing right now. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. But for me, like, basketball is played in a gym, so it's also going back to that gym and getting that same rush of like a sport in a gym with a lot of people. Everyone's cheering and sweating and throwing. It's so it kind of that parallel for me was really what drew me into it.
Kind of a weird question, but like, did certain like smells or scents kind of just like take you back to the good old like college days and high school of competition? Kind of like what you're saying, like with like the sounds and the like, did that kind of just bring back those memories as well? Just like smelling
Absolutely.
the floor and
it like for example, when we had round 1 at Cal State Northridge this season for elite, that's a place that I used to play basketball.
Oh, cool.
So I, walking into that gym, I was reminded like, oh, like I'm familiar with this place, and that smell of a gym, it's the same anywhere you go. If you've played basketball or volleyball or any sport that's played indoors, and even for people that grew up playing soccer or softball or whatnot, the smell of the grass, fresh cut grass, the field.
Yep.
Exactly. So, like, I guess it's more of a cerebral thing for me. Dodgeball has become, and that's what basketball always was for me as well. So, kind of making that connection between the two sports and being able to continue playing, it's, I get that same rush every time I step on the court as I did when I played basketball.
That's awesome. That's so cool that, again, dodgeball of all things could have like a sense of familiarity for you and you can feel like home.
Yeah.
Did you take to it pretty naturally? I think if I recall, like you start off pretty good off the bat, right? Is that correct?
I definitely started out because I also played softball. So I knew I could throw. I kind of took to it just the same way as, you approach any new sport. You kind of like walk in and kind of get the feel for things. And then, once you get a couple of games under your belt, and then you kind of get used to, the way that people play and whatnot. I would say I took to it pretty quickly. But by no means am I anywhere like where I want to be in the sport.
Right.
So I continue to try and improve every single time I step on the court. But yeah, I think I took to it pretty quickly, and I think the draw to it and the love for it that I quickly found is what kept me and what continues to keep me working hard.
Awesome. And you mean in that short time, so you said about 4 years you've been playing total, 3 years I put like competitive, so like elite level tournaments. I'd say that's a pretty fast turnaround, especially playing on a team like Money Shot, where you guys took what, first last year?
Yeah, first last year and second this year.
Yep. And then just watching you play at Bell's with I Love Money, like, yeah, it looks like you've been playing for a very long time just because of the court awareness. And I mean, shoot, you're already pulling double catches, so that's great. it's a really sharp learning curve there. Just
Thank you.
Real quick though, so what other sports did you play growing up? Like you mentioned basketball. What else did you play, if any?
Yeah, I played a lot. I started playing basketball when I was like 7 or 8, and then all through high school and college. I also played softball. I played volleyball in high school. Really, really loved volleyball. And there's actually a lot of similarities between volleyball and dodgeball. That quick sprints and reaction time. And then I also played a lot of football growing up, a lot of flag football up until 8th grade. And, I wanted to play tackle, but my parents were smart and said absolutely not. So I didn't. But I played flag all until 8th grade. But yeah, I would say basketball. Basketball was my main sport, and softball and volleyball were what I did during basketball off season.
Gotcha. You said your parents are smart because you wanted to play tackle football. So were they just like, you're going to get hurt and end up being, 30 and not being able to walk like most people that play football, or was there other reasons for that?
Yeah, I have one speed and it's go. So I don't really know how to hold back and, tackle, like, in 8th grade, boys and girls are kind of, they're still similarly shaped and size. But then when you get to high school, boys get really strong. So I think my parents were just trying to protect me, and they also knew like basketball was my main sport. So they were like, we're not going to let you jeopardize basketball to play football. Obviously, you're not going to get into the NFL.
Right.
So yeah, it was smart of them, and I listened. But I think that's where I get a lot of like I practiced a lot of hand-eye coordination when I was young, and I think that's super important, and being able to carry that into like my adult life. I think football had a lot of it helped me a lot with that.
Yeah, for sure. So what positions did you play in football?
Wide receiver that was my go-to. It was like, Brenda, just go down the field. We'll get it to you. You'll catch it.
Yeah. And how tall are you?
5'7".
5'7". So I'm sure that helped back then with volleyball, basketball, and I remember you being pretty tall. Was this just out of curiosity? Were these like co-ed teams, or was it for like was it a league, or like was it school? Because I didn't see football until high school, so I didn't know if like junior high or middle school had football leagues, or if it was a sport.
Yeah, so there were flag football leagues. They were co-ed, and the school that I went to for elementary school and middle school also offered sports, and one of them was flag football. And I just, when I was growing up, I was always just playing sports with the boys. And, at recess, one of the things we would do is play football. And, like a lot of the girls were off to the side doing whatever. And I was just like, no, I want to play sports. Like that's
boring.
What I love to do.
I want to have fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I started playing football, I think in like 4th grade.
That's awesome. You reminded me of some friends of mine that would play with us, because we never understand like why do these girls like just hang out in the jungle gym doing nothing when they could be out here playing with us, and some would, and it was awesome when they did. It just felt like, yay, more bodies playing. Just makes sense. Yeah, it's just more fun. Like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. And how fun is it when a girl can smoke a guy? Like, it's the best.
Oh, it's my favorite. It's like my secret weapon. Like, these guys are gonna get burned. This is awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, very cool. Well, you said football helped with like the hand-eye coordination. Obviously, being a wide receiver, you're fighting for the ball and whatnot, and just catching. But what other sports do you feel helped you? You also mentioned volleyball has a lot of similar like movements, but anything specific that really helped you kind of just take the dodgeball? I don't want to say naturally, but quicker than most.
Yeah, like I said, volleyball. Just the quick movements you have to make on the court. Court awareness, it's different because you only play volleyball and basketball with one ball, and in dodgeball you kind of have to have court awareness at the same time as having athleticism, to be able to dodge and move and jump. So I think I took a lot of like in volleyball, so lateral movement, being able to move side to side quickly, is the same thing in dodgeball. You have to move side to side. One ball is coming at you, you see it from one direction, you have to move to the right or move to the left. Being able to move laterally and also vertically. So you move to the left and jump, or move to the right and jump. Or in volleyball, having to dive for a ball, is the same thing as like getting low under a ball that's coming at you.
Right.
And like in basketball. So basketball is a game that's played vertically and laterally. So, being able to pull up for a jumper, same thing as having to pull up or having to jump over a ball that's coming at you. So the similarities between sports, it's the same thing. I never really played soccer, but, a lot of women or a lot of men, that played goalie have that ability to move side to side and jump and also have their hands ready. So, I think a background in sports, growing up can help a lot with dodgeball.
For sure. And then plus it helps with like the team aspect and kind of just mostly like, I don't want to say like subverting the ego, but just, that you're part of a team. It's not all about you, which I feel like a lot of players still kind of struggle with. And I wonder if there's a correlation between them and how many youth sports or organized sports that they played growing up.
It would be interesting to look at that, because I totally agree. I think having a background in a sport where you had to play with a team and learning your role, but also, when it was your time to step up, is something that, when if you learn it young, you don't forget it. You carry it with you.
Yeah. It's been beaten into, as in my case. Yeah, it might be I don't know how we'd go about that, but Tribune article, excuse me.
There we go. Yep. No, it's funny. I was actually, I was talking to Casey Reed. I train her. I train a bunch of the players, the women's players especially, but we both were Division III collegiate athletes. She played volleyball in college and I played basketball. And, there is definitely a correlation between being a Division III athlete and dodgeball. And it was something that we're thinking about, looking into and seeing how many players have that like Division III experience where, we don't get paid to play. We are very skilled in our sport, but we might not have, that extra little bit of athleticism or height or whatever it may be to, be a Division I athlete where you're getting scholarships and money. But you play the sport because you love it and you're also pretty talented at it, which is the same as with dodgeball. Like, we're not getting paid huge amounts of money to play. And yet here we are working our butts off to improve in a sport that we love. It's the same kind of thing. So yeah, we're thinking about, asking around and seeing, what background people have in collegiate sports, and seeing if they also kind of think of it in the same way as we do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, like look at Rise. I mean, they've always been on the radar since 2007 as the team to beat, and even with Doom coming in and taking over for as long as they did, Rise is still the topic of conversation. If you're not talking about them, then you're just, I don't know what you're doing here in denial. But they have organized. I think, as far as I know, they're the only team that's had organized practices. They completely shut down any egotistical players. Just look at the players that used to play for them and don't. They have a brand guide. I mean, they really take the whole organizational sports aspect to a whole new level. And when something's not working, they readjust their rosters. They bust it out with the trainer, apparently, to help them stretch out. And they're doing all these things that make them still relevant today. And I feel like if that's going to be like a content piece, or if you guys are just kind of finding out just for the heck of it, I would love to see like what the outcome is and what you guys find out, because I feel like you'll find teams like that and players like that are going to be the more successful ones versus teams and players now that are kind of just lower middle of the pack, or just they're not growing. Because that's where dodgeball is now. It's just, if you want to get better, you have to go back to your organizational high school, college sport days, or get left in the dust.
Right, and I also think that there is an importance in not just playing dodgeball to get better. Like, there's I might be biased because of my, my career and what I do, but there's so much to be said about putting in the work outside of the gym, outside of, the dodgeball court, like
Oh yeah.
putting yourself in positions that are uncomfortable. It's the same thing as you being the last person on the court. Like, do you have that extra, internal strength to not freak out, to know, okay, I've been in this position before. I put myself through the hardest workout I could a week ago and I survived. I can get through anything. And that's what I like to let my clients know. And, not just my dodgeball clients, but anyone. It's like, put yourself in any position that's uncomfortable and you can get through it, and you can take that lesson and kind of, spread it throughout your entire life. And we just happen to be talking about dodgeball, but it can be taken and in so many different ways.
That's awesome. Oh man. Trying not to get too sidetracked here. So what do you do actually? So I understand, I heard CrossFit, and so let me slow down.
So what do I do?
Yeah, what do you do? Let's just start there.
Okay, so I am actually the general manager of a CrossFit gym out in the San Fernando Valley in California. I manage the gym, but I also I coach classes. So I coach CrossFit classes. I teach CrossFit. I give I do personal training. I do group classes. I specialize in Olympic lifting. Basically all you can think about in the world of fitness. Like, I have a background in it. I got my bachelor's degree in kinesiology. So I've pretty much known what I wanted to do, and now I get to do it, and it's the best.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You actually wake up happy to go to work in the morning.
Yeah, it's awesome. Even the mornings that it's like 5 a.m., you got to get there and give the people their fitness. They walk out of there and they feel better. It's great.
Yeah, I used to think having to wake up early in the morning was dumb, but I kind of love it now. There's something just very promising about rising before the sun and just get like that. I don't know. I just get like that feeling of, man, I can actually do stuff today.
Yeah, it's like it's called the win the day mentality. So you wake up and you're ready to win the day. So you win your own day when you get to control when you wake up and what you do in the morning.
Yeah, like that must be it, because it's, you just get up and you face it versus I'm going to hide my covers and I don't want to, and I'm going to fight with the snooze button, which I do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll have like a good 4 or 5 day streak, and then weekends I'm like, I'm going to sleep forever because I can, but it varies. Earlier you were saying you're training Casey Reed.
Yeah, so I train a bunch of the female dodgeball players. Some one-on-one, some I do group classes. I've had a couple actually join my gym after doing personal training with them for a little bit. So it's great. I love it. It's hard though, because where I live and where I work is not super close to the majority of where the dodgeball people live. So those that get up and they come work out with me and they sit through the traffic, like it's amazing. And I so appreciate them doing that.
Oh, that's so cool. So I don't know if this was, I think this was you. Well, I was creeping on Facebook. I think it was like Instagram stories. I've recently discovered them, so I just do random stuff of nonsense. But I came across Crystal Briones, and I know one of the persons was, I think they're doing mountain climbers on like this turf, and one was Bree, and I think the other one might have been Casey Reed, and I was like, geez, like that's so cool. Like they're freaking getting after it to practice and get better for Team USA. And I think it even said like Team USA training. And then I asked Crystal, like, oh, are you beating them up right now? Like, is that you training them? She's like, no, Brenda's doing that. I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, it was just so cool seeing people that committed and dedicated to what's going to be probably the biggest worlds so far, because of all that's been surrounding it and all the hype, and to see people like Andrew like losing weight and working out, and just seeing that drive in people is so motivating and awesome to see. And I wanted to ask, like, was that you beating them up?
So that's my gym. That was that's awesome. My gym. That's me beating them up. It was actually Crystal, Karina, and Brianna. Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, they all worked all day and came out. I think we started at like 9 p.m. and they just got after it. I put them through tons of drills, ladder drills, shoulder stability stuff, like,
oh my God, I'm so jealous.
all kinds of stuff. And they work their butts off. And that's all I ask whenever I have clients, all I ask is, like, you give me 100%, I'm going to give you all I have. And we're going to get through this together. But you're going to walk out of here and proud of yourself that you just, completed an hour's worth of hard work.
Can you move to Phoenix? That's so
I guarantee you there's plenty of trainers out there in Phoenix. I don't know if they play dodgeball, but
that's the key is, and that's another cool thing too, is that there's people that are hitting up, or offering rather. I think Miles Gardner from Kaiju had offered to put together plans for people, and just the demand is there. It's like, maybe it's not as loud as we might think, or maybe it's getting louder, but it's definitely there. And I'm really curious to see, like, what your and I don't know if this is proprietary information, but like what like how do you say, like, this workout will help a dodgeball player, or is there certain workouts and drills that just kind of help any element of an athlete?
So the easy answer is that it depends on the person. It depends on the athlete and what they exactly are looking for, or they need to improve whatever aspect of their game they're looking to improve. This actually goes along with, one of Tyler's questions. And I actually, put a lot of thought into my answer to this. I think the number one thing that I see when people from dodgeball walk into my gym and they ask me to help them is they have issues with their shoulders and they have elbow issues. And it makes a lot of sense. We're in one plane of motion, constantly throwing, probably as hard as you can. So you're putting your whole body and your shoulder at risk every time you do that, if you don't have the requisite strength to, put your arm through that same motion. So a lot of what I do right off the bat is like some shoulder rehab stuff. And it's not heavy. It's not heavy weight. A lot of the times it's just body weight stuff. But just getting, people to use their scapula, like to actually get their shoulders to move and not try to get all their power from, their elbows and their wrists. And, definitely what I focus on with a lot of people, not just shoulder rehab, but also core stability and core strength, and letting people know that your core is not just 6-pack abs. Like, right. Your core comes from, your whole torso is your core, which also includes your back. So a lot of what happens, when people have back issues, it's like, okay, your core is not firing properly, but yet you're putting yourself in unstable conditions, trying to make your body go in certain directions that your body's not safe for. So then that's when injuries occur. So kind of like rewinding and kind of like finding the source of the issue and working from basically core out. So a lot of what comes with that is, the shoulder rehab and strengthening single arm workouts, single arm movements. A lot of what I do, picture a kettlebell. So, you have the kettlebell and you have the handle. The best way to strengthen and get your shoulder in an unstable yet trying to stable position is holding that kettlebell from its handle underneath, so that you're holding it from upside down, and then getting your arm and your shoulder to move, from, like I say, like in your pocket up to over your head, but making sure your arm is completely locked out at the top. You're allowing your shoulder to move in all the ranges of motion that it needs to, but you're adding in that stability to help you, get those stable shoulder girdle muscles to fire the way that you need to. Then you can bring that into your throw, and you're not going to have as much pain when you're using your shoulder the way it's supposed to. I'm sorry, I could nerd out on this all day, but
please, I'm like, I have kettlebells at home. I'm also not going to air any of this. This is going to be my advantage only.
Yeah, there you go, man. This is all for you.
This will all be bleeped out.
Yeah, exactly. And then from there, you can go into a lot of plyometrics, a lot of speed and jumping. And like I said, with volleyball or with basketball, it's like, how fast can you go from a sprint to a stop to a jump? So I do a lot of depth jumps. So jumping from a high box onto the ground, up onto another box, down, and as high as you can, jumping off the ground. Allowing yourself to find balance also. Balance is super important. And, with moving from side to side, you need that core stability to allow yourself to stay balanced with every single movement that you're making. And then there's some people that have an athletic background, and that's when I can throw in like some Olympic lifting movements, which are the snatch and the clean and jerk, and those right there help the most with explosion. So, a lot of what you want is that explosive movement to like move forward, move backwards, move up. So getting that hip explosion and extension is something that you need a lot of in dodgeball and with any sport in general. And then lastly, just coordination is super important. So I do a lot of single leg, so balance and coordination kind of go along in the same realm. So I do a lot of single leg movements, a lot of single leg, what are called single leg deadlifts, unilateral deadlifts, where you're holding a weight at one side, but you're on single leg. So you're having to fight to keep your hips down and your core stable. All of that's gonna relate so well to dodgeball. Breaking it down into like what it is. It's throwing, jumping, catching, all that stuff added together. And then, obviously you need a cardio aspect to, when those games start getting revved up, you need that cardio. You need your heart to be able to pump and get that blood moving, and not to the point where you're feeling tired, to the point where you're using that blood, you're using, all the blood that's flowing to your muscles to, be able to continually have the same strength that you did in the beginning as you do, 5 hours later.
Yeah, you got to squeeze out every minute you can, because they can be very, very tiring. And it's funny how it's only like a dodgeball game might be like 2-3 minutes tops per match or per game, and you can be so winded just because of the stress and the movement that you're doing and the toll it's taking on your body. And maybe a couple hours a night at the gym might have just bought you those extra 30 seconds that make or break the difference between if you're going to catch that ball or hit that guy or run them down or what have you. So
exactly. And that's what I found, playing UDC and having to add the bounce aspect of it, the jumping aspect of it. So you're constantly jumping and that tires you out. So do you have the strength and do you have the stamina to last while jumping and get that power from your throw? Do you have that ability? And some people do and some people don't. So there's a lot that you can go into in terms of training and the aspects that are going to help you the most in dodgeball.
Man, that's so cool. Definitely rabbit hole ideas coming up. I'll probably save those for offline, but man, that's and like kind of going back to just starting with throwing and working on your shoulder. Like you probably, if people would take the time to dig more or apply these lessons or find somebody that can help them locally, they're probably buying an extra 3 or 4 years of core time. And you mentioned you listened to like the OG panel, and Joseph mentioned that, hey, the dark is coming for us all. We're all getting very old, and we're all looking at the twilight years of our career. And some of us, like myself, are still seeing what we can do to just buy another year. Like, what can I do now to buy myself another 2 years on the court? And if it means, subjecting myself to a different kind of training, or maybe just like scaling back my workouts and actually just focusing on developing my scapula or my core, like, I'll do it. That's I think kind of going back again to what you said about how people are taking this more seriously. Like, I feel like this is the next level for people that are gonna separate themselves from top tier players to people that are just showing up once a week playing, and they may have been good, they may have been enough back in the day, but now it's definitely not, especially if you're going to compete on the elite level.
Right. Exactly.
Can try to contain myself. go back to elite. You kind of say, well, first of all, that Tyler Greer's question was, being a physical trainer, you put in parentheses CrossFit, what specific workouts or at least types of workouts does she think dodgeball players should focus on? Can't you tell some of the workouts she directed some of the Team USA that she used? And I definitely think you cover that. That could be a podcast of its own. So maybe we'll pocket that one for later, but see if it comes up again. In the meantime, though, let's go back to a couple years ago. You played in WeHo, started to get a real good feel for it, started to realize that you're pretty good at dodgeball. What brought you into the elite scene or the competitive tournament scene?
So I didn't even know that elite existed until, I had no idea, until I joined the all girls league. And I mentioned this in the podcast previously before Bells, but I didn't know anybody. I didn't know a single person. The only person that I even recognized, I think, was Brittany Mastro, because she played at WeHo, and I just remember I was like, oh my God, this girl's so strong. She has such a great arm. That was, again, 4 years ago. So I joined the girls league and I played in an open gym. And I happened to be put on a team with Heidi Chambers, and she's pretty quiet. So she's super reserved, but, deadly at the same time. So I just, I don't really remember much, but I just remember, like playing alongside of her. I didn't even know what positions really meant or what a corner was. I just kind of like bounced around a little bit.
Right.
But I think she recognized like, oh, this girl actually has potential. And I was completely unknown. Nobody knew who I was. So I think she contacted Brianna, and Brianna reached out to me, again, I didn't know anybody. So she was like, hey, do you want to play on this traveling team with us, or elite or something? And again, I'm super competitive. So anytime I can be on a team or, flex that team muscle, I'm like, oh yeah, let's do it. It just so happened to be Brianna and Heidi, who are unreal. So it's like kind of an honor that they asked me, before I even knew pretty much anything. So I just kind of learned as I went. We went to that first elite tournament, I guess 3 years ago now. And, every elite tournament, you learn something new. So I kind of just like took it one game at a time, I guess. If I'm remembering correctly, then yes.
So I imagine Bree approaching you and Heidi scouting you even 3 years ago. It was probably a big deal. Were you like retroactively honored once you realized and got a sense of like the team you're on and who was watching you?
Yes, that's a perfect way to put it. It's like, say you're just a guy playing football on the weekends, and Tom Brady comes up to you and he's like, hey man, you want to join my team? I saw you catch that ball. You want to be on my team? And you have no idea who Tom Brady is, but you're like, all right, cool, sounds good. I like playing sports. It's like the same thing. It's like, okay, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady want me to play on their team. Awesome, let's do it.
And then 3 years later, like, holy I've been playing with Tom Brady this whole time.
Right, I've been playing with Tom Brady. I have a championship, and I lost last year. That's pretty. Actually, you know what? That's pretty accurate.
Wow, that's funny. I guess that's a good way to put it. I mean, it's definitely not. It's a big deal. Not to inflate her ego or put her on the spot, but like Bree's a big deal.
And don't tell her you said that.
I won't say that. I never said that.
We'll cut that part out.
Yeah, I'll have to ask you if you want me to bleep that out and just be like a long bleep again.
Perfect.
But and then you kind of remind me of like when we talked earlier. You had some. You asked her some questions like, "Hey, how can I get better?" She kind of helped coach you through that. And then I would say here we are. A couple of years later. But I do want to go into the trampoline, and I think I might know the answer for this one. What got you into playing UDC, and why did you give trampoline a shot?
So let's rewind. So a year ago, there was a tournament, a 4v4 foam tournament, and at the end, they did a random draw 2v2, and this was during the time that I think teams were forming for UDC. So Rachel Rodia and I were paired together for the 2v2, and I'd known her, but I was never formally introduced. I just played against her. So I was super excited to get to play with her because she's amazing. So we played together and kind of like got along really well, had a really great playing rapport. And then after that tournament, she approached me and she's like, "Hey, are you playing UDC?" And I told her, "No, well, I don't know yet. No one's really asked me, but I'd really like to because, I want to play dodgeball wherever I can." So she said, "Yeah, I think I'm putting together an Arizona team. I have Sam Greco and Katie Sanchez so far. And I think Steph Baxter was on it, but she I think she got injured like right after. She's like, "Yeah, we need one more." Yeah. She's like, "Hey, we need one more. Do you want to do this with us?" And I was like, "Absolutely. To play with you guys? Of course." So then shortly after that, there was a Facebook group that we started, and then Steph Baxter said she got hurt. So we were looking for another player, and Lauren Hoffman was available, which again, how, but not mad that she ended up on our team. So, Rachel and Lauren play on Pop That together. So she reached out to Lauren, and she also said yes. So that's kind of how the team formed. And then going into it, I think we all were kind of like, yeah, we're relatively like underrated in some aspects. So we just went out there and we had fun. Like we just really enjoyed ourselves and each other and just kind of feeding off each other the entire weekend.
Yeah, Katie Sanchez, Rachel Rodia, and Sam Greco. That's a good lineup on any team, or any court, any medium.
Right.
Throw you into the mix, and geez. And Lauren Hoffman, that was the other one?
Yes.
I think I'd know the name. I think
yeah, Lauren Hoffman.
I would recognize her.
Yeah, you definitely would. She's on Pop That. She's got this crazy sidearm throw that just knocks people out.
Yeah. Rachel's awesome. I don't want to say legit terrifies me, but that's kind of close to what I mean. Cause like I think she can get you out wherever you are. She has this amazing no look throw and such a quick release. Like if I'm ever playing against her, like I try to prioritize her just so I can breathe a little bit. And, it's fun to play against her too. And Katie Sanchez, man, it could be a podcast about her, and hopefully there will be soon if we can actually get our dates aligned. But both of them. But yeah, those are all phenomenal players.
Yeah. Hopefully you can get them on. I'd love to hear their stories as well.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely something I don't want to rush either. So it's only a matter of time. I'll get them. So I mentioned earlier that, I'd asked rather if you guys are going to come back next year, if UDC has another women's division. Do you guys think you're going to stay together, or have you put much thought into that since then?
Yeah, we're going to stay together. We've talked about it, and I think we all just enjoyed it so much, and we were so close to making the finals that there's no way we can break up now. So we're going to stay together and try and, get back there and hopefully get to the finals next time.
Awesome. Who came up with Loft and why Loft? What does that mean?
So it means layout for that. Huh. And a coach of mine in college in softball. So I used to play center field, and something that she used to say to us outfielders was lay out for that. So she would say that to us all the time. This was like back in 2009 when I went to college. So it's just something that I never forgot. There's some things that you hear or coaches have said to you, and they just stick with you because they said them so many times. Yep. And yeah, so it was before, as we were practicing for UDC, I think Lauren and I think Azalea, it was just something that we would say, for fun and just laugh and whatever. Because my coach was from, I forget what state she was from, but she had this crazy accent, and every time she'd say it, you hear it in that accent. So we would say it. And then as we were trying to think of team names, I realized that you could abbreviate layout for that, and it became Loft.
It actually kind of works.
It's perfect. So I said it to the group, and everyone seemed to like it, and now it has become its own thing, and it will continue. It will live on. The Loft will live on.
Awesome. That's a great way to honor a past mentor or coach. Just to keep that.
Coach Tammy, always.
Tammy. And layout for that, does that just mean diving or give it your all, or what does that mean exactly?
It can have any meaning that you want. Nice. I think, it's mostly if that ball is in the air and you can get it, you better lay out for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Man, they should, somebody mentioned this on the threads a long time ago, but they should mic players in between games if that was possible, so you can hear people saying stuff and the banter and the hype that goes on in huddles.
You'd hear some weird stuff. I
can
think.
Imagine. I can imagine hear some weird stuff, but good stuff nonetheless. I forgot to ask, or maybe I forgot, but did you mention that do you play in a co-ed team?
An 8.5 team?
Yeah.
No. So I saw that question as well. And I don't play on an 8.5 team, and I don't think I ever will. I have a background with some injuries and concussion stuff, and just putting myself in that position to get my head blown off by one of those guys who throw hundreds or whatever, how fast they throw. It's just one of those things where I have to be smart. And even though I love it, I've played it a few times, I think I played it mostly at Kelly's invitational tournaments with all women, but even some of them can sling that ball. But
Oh yeah.
Just for safety reasons, I prefer foam and no sting.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like back in the day when you're told not to play football. Like you just want to preserve yourself as much as you want to. It's probably choosing the better option so you can keep playing in the other divisions.
Exactly.
That's smart. Probably really hard to fight that urge, especially after getting to know you a little bit more. But it's like you can play, risk getting injured, and not play ever again, or you can continue to play and grow in the way that you have. So, and that was another Tyler Greer question. He definitely went ham again. But
he was killing it, man.
Yeah, he was.
I love it.
That was great. He's just like bing, bing, bing. I was like, oh my God, Tyler. That was that's what I want. So we'll get there soon, actually. Do you have a style of play? Like, are you defensive, offensive? Are you known as catching, blocking? Does it vary? How would you define how you play and what you bring to the team?
I would describe myself as pretty versatile, actually. And really just depending upon the opponent. So I actually watch a lot of film. I watch a lot of the games, just trying to get to know the teams that I'm going to be playing against more, and really studying teams' tendencies and players' tendencies. So I know going into playing a specific team, what style they like to play. So how do I need to, kind of maneuver myself or like what plan of attack I need to take to be the most successful. So that's just kind of like a long-winded way of saying, like, I can, if my team needs me to corner, I'll corner. If a team, like in Loft, for example, like my role was more of a catching role. And I took that. Absolutely. Just really depends on what the team needs, and I can fit whatever, space they need me to go in.
Nice. Going back to that team mentality, like it's not about what I want, it's what the team needs.
Right. And what's going to be best, what's going to help the team be the most successful. That's what matters to me.
Awesome. Very cool. I haven't, for some reason, I just now thought to ask this for people, and that is what number do you have or do you wear, and does it bear any significance?
I wear number 35, and that number is my first ever basketball number when I was growing up. So, my first, rec league basketball team is just the number that I got. And it, not many people have it other than Kevin Durant now. But other than that, like, it's not super common, but, it means a lot to me. So it feels good to, honestly, to be able to continue wearing it.
That's funny. A couple people on my COA team have tried to take number 8 from me, and I got insanely offended and insulted. I was like, how dare you? This has been my number for a long time. And I'm just now realizing, like, yeah, it's kind of a big deal for people. So 35, it was just randomly assigned to you?
Yeah, it was my first number, and I wore it all through high school and college as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah, I needed 40 some odd episodes later, and I finally think of a really good question to start asking people again. Kind of a no-brainer. But
there you go.
Yep. Always adding new to the lineup here. And the only other question I had was, what is your favorite style of ball? Usually it's between rubber, no sting, and foam. But for you, I guess no sting versus foam. Do you have a preference at all, or?
I really like foam. Not gonna lie.
That's
I love it. I love the style of it. I love the style that you have to play when you use it. I think I really like playing with it.
So foam first, no sting second?
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think that's just the way of the world. We're all moving to foam. Definitely just need to adapt and overcome. For me anyway, I love 8.5, always will, but foam it's growing on me as much, and I like to give it a hard time, especially people that are proponents of foam. But like, I do enjoy it more and more. So anyway,
Yeah, it's fun.
One question that popped up, because you're talking about like all the sports that you play and all the training and intensity that you do. Have you ever experienced a soreness like dodgeball soreness? And
A soreness like dodgeball soreness.
yeah, and like that's kind of a random question. Is like, so I've played a lot of sports too, but like dodgeball for some reason like just renders my entire body just completely just torn up, and it's an incredible feeling because it feels really satisfying that you're like, yeah, I worked my butt off this weekend. I also feel like I'm 80 all of a sudden. Have you ever gotten that way with when the games you played or the matches you played?
I would say that the worst soreness I've felt, I used to do some CrossFit competitions, nothing crazy, but where it's like you're doing 3 or 4 workouts in one day, and they can vary with the type of workout that you're doing. I don't think I've ever felt more sore, or like my entire soul was like broken, other than doing CrossFit competitions. I think for dodgeball, I've gotten sore, but there's nothing compared to just lifting those crazy weights and putting your body in like the craziest positions. But yeah, the dodgeball soreness is, sometimes my feet get sore and my arms can get a little bit tired, but nothing compares to a CrossFit competition.
Yeah, I can imagine just seeing the competitions that are on ESPN2 and whatnot, and kind of goes back to what you said about like how you expose yourself to the elements and you make life really hard sometimes, so that when you are required to step up and endure something like dodgeball, you're like, oh, I can totally handle this, because you've experienced something probably far worse or more challenging or more wear and tear on the body.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the questions that I started to add to this or kept was Markel Stokes. He generally would ask, what song gets you amped up for a dodgeball game, if any?
What song?
Or songs?
I think it varies. Sometimes I like to stay chill and I'll like listen to a podcast. Like I'll listen to Bill Simmons. I'll listen to a Bill Simmons podcast, just listen to what's going on in sports. Sometimes it's Beastie Boys. Sometimes it's Blondie or some kind of like, it really just is random. Sometimes it's some new EDM stuff, and sometimes it's nothing. When I was playing basketball, fun fact though, I would listen to country music before I played. But I've kind of evolved since then, so I don't really have like a specific playlist that I listen to. It just really depends on how I feel that day or that morning.
Gotcha. So it could be all over the place.
All over the place, exactly.
Okay. Country music, huh? Like 90s country music when it was actually good, or the new crap that started coming out after like 2005?
Well, it was in between 2009 and 2011, 2012. So I guess it was the crappy country music.
Well, to each their own. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, Rascal Flatts goes hard, man.
Okay, there's 2 songs I really like from them. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just like you got Purple Rain stuck in my head now. It's just gonna be like a tradition. I was like, what song am I getting stuck in my head now?
It's Purple Rain always.
Yeah, they're fighting right now in my head. I'll let you know who wins later.
Sounds good.
Well, let's go back to some of Tyler's questions. You might have maybe kind of addressed this a little bit, but we'll fire it off anyway. So Tyler Greer asked, what do you think the evolution in your game should be? What do you think you need to work on? What's your focus personally this upcoming season? So I'm guessing for 2019.
Couple things I really need to hone in on are my blocking is not great. And I know that for sure. So I'm going to put a lot of work into that in the off season. Play calling, like being that voice on the court. I've had the privilege of playing with Brianna, and she's, an expert play caller. So I want to, continue to learn from that and be able, when she's not on the court, to be able to pick the right spot, or, pick the right people to throw at, or whatnot. And just, I'm thinking about, developing new types of throws. So I've been practicing, some curveball stuff, and really more like breaking ball type of stuff. But just, being able to have those different kind of throws in my back pocket, just so it's not predictable what I'm doing.
Change it up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
You trying to do that, like, what is that thing? It's like a backhand throw. You trying to do, like, I don't want to say weird throws like that, because they can be pretty effective. Anything that versatile, or is that kind of just, you're going to keep that to yourself and figure out?
We'll see. We'll see what I can figure out in the next few months.
Gotcha. I bring that up because I saw Bree do that in Bells during one of the tournaments. It was like, okay, whatever. Like, it was just vicious. It's like, you can't even know when that's coming at you. That's pay attention next time. Yeah, nope is about right.
Right.
Markel, he seems to like this question a lot, but he asks, if you had to jump on a team from the West Coast region, which team would it be on? Assuming, you had to leave Money Shot for whatever reason.
I saw this and I toyed with it, and my first thought was to decline to answer.
I was going to ask if you wanted an out for that one.
So here's my out. Loft. Plus someone else. Gotcha. That's my answer.
Fair.
It counts, right? That counts. I think that should count.
Totally acceptable. It's hypothetical. I mean, why would you ever want to leave Money Shot? So that works. Markel, you got to stop asking those questions, man.
Yeah, man. Stop trying to create drama. Let us live.
Exactly. That guy's hilarious. All right. So going back to Tyler, let's kind of read this one out loud. Being somewhat new to Dodgeball, 3 years-ish, 4. What ball style do you have the most fun with, and do you see Dodgeball taking off, or at least continuing to progress with a specific ball style ahead of any of the others? We can just negate foam or rubber there. And lots of questions. Okay, so what ball style do you have the most fun with? And I think we kind of answered that already. Would that be foam?
Foam, yes.
And then in terms of how you see Dodgeball continuing to progress, do you believe it's going to be a foam type of structure or no sting?
It's interesting. I'm inclined to say foam just because of how popular and prevalent it is around the world, I guess.
Yep.
But like I said before, I have only been in this world for about 3 to 4 years. So I don't know the history. I don't know the whys behind why, women in elite play no sting, or why, leagues are, mostly no sting. I don't know the answer to that. So in my opinion, I think foam, well, it's hard because, I think about it in terms of throw style. So if foam becomes, the one that we play mostly, a lot of people are going to have to program their throws and learn how to throw the foam ball. And that takes, it's more than just pick up the foam ball on a Sunday and throw it around. Like, a lot of people have developed throws in no sting and 8.5 in rubber. So if foam is going to be taking off, then it's going to require more work. Do I think that people are willing to put that in? For sure. So I guess it's a long-winded way of saying I think foam is the future. I think it's going to be taking off more so, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's a good answer, and I'm gonna have to agree with you just because going back from the very start, 8.5 was definitely the beginning. Without getting too crazy into history, there used to be like this thing called a stinger, which was about the size of a softball, and it was rubber. It was 2-ply, and those were just murdering people. So those got phased out. They lost popularity. 8.5 grew, and now it's slowly transitioning into foam taking over. That's what the rest of the world plays with. No sting is a very good alternative, especially for rec leagues. So a lot of people that are coming into elite are bringing that bias with them or that preference, and with foam, like part of why I get so upset is just because I have to relearn how to play dodgeball again, and part of me really likes that because it's that challenge, but the other part of me is like super frustrated because it's like, man, I used to like the brain and the muscles do what they're supposed to, but something just doesn't happen. That's just getting used to the trajectory of foam and trying to adapt. So it depends on the day. Sometimes I really enjoy it. Sometimes I'm just like super frustrated. I'm like, come on, it's like learning how to walk again.
Right. But I think that's the beauty of it, is you have to challenge yourself. You have to find that challenge to be able to grow. And, you can get stuck in your ways, but how are you going to improve if you don't suck at something first and then learn how to do it, put the work in, put the time in, and get better?
Yep. I agree.
Yep.
That's well said. So Tyler asked this other question. This one might be super loaded, but we'll see. He starts with, might be for Brenda, maybe not. But I've been thinking about this question a lot, and anyone and everyone's opinion should be valued and has validation. So is there a future for dodgeball, and how might we see it, and what is needed reasonably of what currently already is? Probably should have vetted that question first.
So that's a loaded question.
But you said you had a chance to like look at this prior to, so.
Yeah. I had a chance to look at it and kind of mull it over a little bit. Short answer, yes, there is a future for dodgeball. The thing is, where does that start? And I don't know the answer to that, but and I know there's so much that happens in the background, with Elite, with Team USA, with USA Dodgeball. I know they're doing a lot to try and grow the sport in any different way that they can.
Right.
There is growth. I don't know where it starts. It's hard because it's something that so many of us are so passionate about, and we want it to grow and we want it to be popular. Not just in our hashtag dodgeball family circle. Like, you want to get other people not just playing it, but loving it and watching it and supporting it, and I think that might be the next step, is getting fans, people that don't play, but, know the players as dodgeball players and have a chance to, come support and cheer on their favorite team and not necessarily need to form a team to come play against them. But I don't know how that happens without, getting dodgeball, on TV more or what have you. Like, there's so many back end things that need to occur to have that growth happen. But I think we're on the right track. And I think, a lot of it comes from, Vince makes a lot of videos and sharing those videos because, our world is so, much just between, the palms of our hands and our fingertips. Like, social media is huge. So getting that word out, getting those videos out, getting people to see dodgeball as more than just what the movie was, however many years ago, that's done. That's not what it is anymore. But yet you're still going to find, the average person doesn't know how competitive that dodgeball has become. And what's the best way to do that? I don't know. I try to, I talk about dodgeball all the time at my gym. I get people, members of my gym, to watch videos. People from my gym want to come support and they want to watch. So that's a start, but to legitimize it and get people to take it seriously, I don't know where or how that happens, other than getting more viewership or getting, figuring out how to get corporate sponsors, if we even want to go that direction. But getting it to just grow, I don't know where that starts, but I think it's happening.
That's, yeah. I agree on a lot of points, and I'm glad you mentioned Vince making and sharing videos, because sometimes it can feel like it's a bit much. Like, okay, Vince, how many times I get to see your spinning backhand throw at Sin City in 2016 against Tanya Kaiser? Like, geez. But then you look at the comments, and there's like thousands of them, and you look at how many thousands of views have seen that, and you look at people saying, oh man, that guy's insane, or that guy's gnarly, or that poor girl had no chance. And like they don't know who they are, who they're talking about, but they're identifying them as individuals, as people that are playing dodgeball, and they're just that conversation is kind of happening on social media. And I think what you said was pretty much dead on. Like, we have to figure out a way to show all the content that we're creating for our own consumption, but give that to other people so they can actually buy into. Like, why would someone care about Titan from Phoenix? Why do people care about this Andrew Ketchum guy? Like, yeah, he's a big dude and he's throwing heat, but what else about him do people want to follow? That why would they care if he wins versus Rise? And I think, like, hopefully, I'm putting a lot of faith into Dominic, but like with all the work that he's put into his documentary, I hope that is like the jump start that gets people to see the real world of dodgeball and get out of the just like the movie, you guys play on the Ocho and
right.
and all the stuff that we're so used to. And I had a conversation with some of my sergeants during drill, because I was trying to watch or follow both UDC and the WDA event, and they were asking me like, hey, what are you watching? And I was like, oh yeah, there's a world dodgeball competition right now, and there's also a trampoline tournament taking place right now. And they're like, oh, is that gonna be aired on the Ocho? I was like, no, it's live streamed, like you guys can see it right now if you want. And I try to show them some pictures and some footage, and they're just like, holy shit. Like, they had no idea how intense it looked. And the branding, I went on this for UDC for quite a while, like the branding that was portrayed with like the team interviews, and seeing people like Ashley Cook, like looking like you would look at somebody from a Monday Night Football production. Like, they've got like that gritty type of like imagery going on. Like, that's what they need to see. They need to see more of that versus what they remember from a movie that came out 14 years ago, because that totally changes their perspective. Now they're interested in when I go to play, and it's kind of a weird thing to talk about when you're on duty, but it's still that's what changes their perception. So I think that helps with the growth. And I would honestly say more people like you coming in from the beginning, where I don't even know how you recreate this, but I think that just certain people have it where you come in, you play, you do all right, maybe you don't take off like you thought you would, but you stick with it and you just keep coming back. It's a good question. But your answer was really, I agree with a lot of those points. Like I said, freaking Tyler.
Hey, whatever, man. I like the questions. I think he is also trying to think of how the sport can grow, and you need the opinions, you need the feedback from people to help that growth, and that's what we're doing, I think. Yeah,
and so speaking of that, Dan Levine, I hope I should know how to pronounce his name by now, but he said, it's a good question, and it's also being deserving of a standard question. So I think that's like 3 standard questions that I've added now from this interview. So good call, Dan. And yeah, it's a good point. Get to have the opportunity to interview a lot of people and get their input, and I think this is a good question to continue moving forward. So probably something they'll have to mull over though before, because it does take some thought. But Connor Heelan.
Connor!
I had a feeling you knew this person. So, who is your favorite player to play in a random draw 2v2 tournament with that slightly resembles Macaulay Culkin? I was like, that's a really targeted question. So, who might that be?
I think I'm going to go with Connor.
Okay.
Connor is my answer. Yes.
Was this
But I also have had that opportunity to play with Rachel in the same kind of way. So, you know, she doesn't resemble Macaulay Culkin at all. So Connor, you get this one.
That was close.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure about that. Was this from the was it the thing that you came from when we last interviewed?
Yes,
the fundraiser.
That's what it. Yeah, that's what it was from.
That was hilarious. I read that. I was like, yeah, that's a very specific question there. I think I know the answer to this one, but we'll ask it anyway. We have to.
Shout out to Connor all day.
That's awesome. Katie Sanchez, what is your most memorable dodgeball play that you've either made or seen?
So I'm gonna go away from the double catch.
I was gonna say that doesn't count. We've talked about that already. So.
Yeah, that doesn't count. So I'm gonna answer this in a team aspect. I think winning nationals against Pop That last year, we had never beaten Pop That, even in an elite round. We had never beaten them, and being able to come together at that moment when we needed to most and beat Pop That 4 times, that is something I will never forget, and that will always be my favorite and happiest dodgeball moment.
Wow.
You know, it's like playing against the best team and you never beat them ever, and yet, you know, the opportunity on the biggest stage, your team figures it out and comes together and doesn't just, like, you know, luckily win. Like, we really had to study it and to figure it out, and to beat them 4 times. That's not a fluke. That's like, no, we earned that win.
Super
so that
intentional.
That will always be my favorite, most memorable dodgeball moment. And I think the moment, the most memorable moment I have watching dodgeball, and we've talked about it so many times, and I think it deserves to be talked about forever, is Angelique's beast mode. Like, you know, it's like someone is known for being a catcher. She's known for being a catcher. And yet here she is. And this just goes to show you, like, the versatility that the best players need to have. She took it upon herself. What was it? 1v4, something like that. 1v4. She took those balls and she said, you know what? I know you guys think I'm going to catch this, but watch, I got an arm and I'm going to get all of you out. And that's exactly what she did. And that was impressive and inspirational. And it just goes to show that the best players can be put in any situation and come out on top. So, you know, I'll never forget that moment either. Just watching her put the team on her back and just win the game for them. It was awesome.
Yeah, that was... So again, with my delayed reaction, I saw on the feed, like, holy crap, Angelique, Legend of League, just like people just saying, wow. And they hyped up this incredible play or series of plays that I had to, like, wait until I got home to watch. And, you know, I was expecting to, like you said, just to, okay, maybe she made a triple catch. Like, you know, I just immediately just kind of, I don't say wrote her off, but just assumed it was a catch. And so when I'm watching this, I was like, okay, like, it's 4v1. Like, what is she going to do? That's so amazing. And then I see her take out Karina, and I'm like, wow, that was okay. Like, and that was a good shot. And that was, like, from quite a distance. So, you know, she took out the next player, and I was like, she's not catching anything. Is she going to take them all out with her by throwing? And then she did. And I was like, holy crap, that was not what I expected. Definitely lived up to the hype that I'd, you know, been following. And yeah, it's like you said, you know, people might have expected her to do one thing, she did another, and it just, like, the excitement. Like, I wish I was there to actually see it and experience that live. But that was incredible, and I just love the commentary too. Like, people just, like, you know, Dave and Brittany just, like, losing their minds while this was happening. That was awesome. And, you know, I wasn't there. I don't do UDC, but that's a memory that I'll have for quite a while. That sticks out from this year.
And those are the moments that need to be featured in places other than on, you know, in our small dodgeball circle. Like,
Yep.
those are the things that people need to see to get the interest in dodgeball skyrocketed.
Yeah, I agree. So this question, the Andrew Ketchum question, and that is, what do you want to achieve in dodgeball, and what keeps pushing you to play to get better? So obviously that you have that competitive drive, but what is that about you, like, and what do you want to do with dodgeball ultimately?
So personally, I would love to represent Team USA. That's my goal, and that's really what I'm working for right now and working towards. And those are, you know, the hours that I put in the gym alone. Like, I work out by myself, and push myself super hard to build up that stamina and endurance and have what it takes to last 4 days. That's my goal for next year and for beyond, to represent the United States. And I think, in a macro sense, I want to see dodgeball in the Olympics. I think, you know, there's a space and a time and that can happen. And hopefully it can happen in my lifetime of playing, but if it doesn't, like, I'd love to be part of the, you know, the beginning stages of moving dodgeball from playing in a bar to playing where we are now to playing in the Olympics. Like, there's stages that happen, and, you know, I want to be involved in helping players get better physically. You know, I even if I ever stop playing dodgeball, when that happens, I'll still be able to train and to coach and to get people physically fit. And, like, you know, yes, I have my own goals, but I think broader than that, I love helping other people. And I see the greatness in so many other people, and having the ability to pull that out of them and utilize that in a sport like dodgeball. That's what's most important to me. You know, right now I predominantly only work with women, but I would love to get some of the men out there as well to, you know, to work with me and to, you know, have me let them help, or have me help them, you know, improve more than just their arm. Like, let's get you moving better, you know, and let's get you playing until your 40s, 50s. Who cares? Age doesn't matter. Like, if you work your body the way that it needs to be worked and take care of it, who says that you have to stop playing when you're 50? Who says that? You don't have to.
Yeah, look at Alan's dad, James Wright, and Dave Benedetto. I'm like, if they're still trucking, I got another 5-10 years easily if I take care of myself. And
yeah, man.
Like we said about, like, being part of, so the Olympics may not happen in your playing lifetime, but just to be able to kind of sit back, say we're watching on TV 20 years from now and it's actually there, like, wow, I was part of that. I was part of, like, the first wave of Team USA memberships. I was part of, you know, the Elite Series from 2000 whatever to whenever. Just having that kind of, like, I don't know, like security that dodgeball continues, and you're able to help push that, you know, whether it was by pushing a couple players to better themselves or by being on rosters of teams that are forever cemented in the, you know, the history, you know, like, Money Shot's going to be up there for a long time. And I wonder if people that train under you are going to, I would imagine that when people look back at when athletes or when dodgeball players became athletes, they were looking to trainers such as yourself to help them get there. Like, I don't know, I think that was really profound what you said. I'm probably butchering it, but yeah, that was well put.
Yeah, thank you.
Need the brain to slow down a little bit again. So you also kind of answered what you're looking forward to in 2018 and beyond. And I did want to ask, do you have, like, a specific memory that's your favorite, other than when you guys beat Pop That 4 times in a row, or is that pretty much like the highlight so far?
That's way up there. And I also think it's important to not remember the failures, but to recognize them, and not necessarily failure as in like we came in last place, but the things that didn't go right, the things that happened in tournaments that we would like to take back or whatnot, but not focusing on the negative things that happened, but learning from them, and also not fearing failure. And I think that's what helped us a lot, is like, we know we've played well against, X team, Y team. Like, we know we can beat them. So what are we going to learn from our mistakes to end up beating them? And I think, just having that ability to grow and to learn from failure is what sets people apart from others. This year we also won, in Kelly's Classic, we won the no sting aspect of it, but we did not do well in the foam part. And, there was some frustration. There were things that came up, and that was when we really needed to rally together to play, to come back and play no sting. And, we did that. So I think that will also, always remain like a very fun memory of mine, is tasting failure, and then, and then kind of coming back and feeling that sense of victory on the same day.
It's awesome. It's kind of like going back to last episode where, in the Nationals, you guys got knocked out like right away. It took like an immediate loss, but then you fought your way back through because you didn't let that defeat you. You just kept going and moving with the punches.
Exactly.
Oh, that's incredible. So I do have, this might be like a 2-part question, but that was, and I thought of this as we were talking earlier, and that is, what are you going to do during the off season? So you kind of mentioned like, you work out by yourself, you subject yourself to things that are uncomfortable so that you can grow, but is there anything specifically that you plan on doing between now and like the next elite, and I guess maybe post the LA Classic, because that's still pretty competitive tournament too, but what are your plans for the off season to get better and achieve those goals that you talked about earlier?
I think one thing I'm going to work on even more is mental strength. So I meditate almost daily, but I'd like to make that even more of a focus for me. Just staying present, not letting failures or letting a bad play hold you back or hold me back, and just practicing that mental strength. When I started meditating, it was about 2 or 3 years ago. It's really helped me kind of hone in on what's important and what, not just in dodgeball, but in life as well. Bad things are going to happen. Negative things are going to happen. But it's how you view it and how you move through it that determines whether or not you're successful. So mental strength. And then also, I like to change up my workout routine as well. I learn as I go just as much as I teach my clients. So if I am seeing something that, I need to work on in my game, I figure out how to implement that into my workouts. And, kind of grow, the same way as I help my clients grow. So, there's some specific things that I'm going to work on. Like I mentioned, throwing and different styles, but also, putting myself in even more uncomfortable positions. Like yesterday I did a workout where I rode, on a rowing machine, I rowed 5,000 meters. And in between that, in between like every few minutes, I would do, some jump rope work and having to go from, one modality to another, but maintaining the same like heart rate and not letting myself get too overwhelmed on the jump rope part. Finding that stability and that balance is something that, I like to find in my everyday life, like finding that flow and bringing that flow from personal training and training on my own into dodgeball.
Wow.
But here's the thing is when I was growing up, I was so unaware of the importance of what happens between the ears when you play or when you're training or even just on the daily. So I've become a lot more aware of that. And that's what I want to help people with as well, is like finding that inner mental strength and calmness at the same time. It's hard, but it takes work also, but it pays dividends.
Man, thinking about all the people I've talked to this year, and I don't think, and this just could be because I didn't ask it, but I don't think meditation or what goes on mentally and working that part out of the whole like dodgeball player or athlete was ever mentioned. So, man,
hopefully this people listening, if they have questions, they can reach out to me or whatnot. But there's so much to be said about training the mind as well as training the body, as well as putting the work in with dodgeball. But you can't go anywhere without your brain. So why not take care of it?
Yeah, no, I'm taken aback because I've never thought like, like it's not just, I'm tall so I can throw really fast because I'm Brody, or I've got massive legs like Justin Acton and I can hurt. Like there's so much that people might overlook or might not think about that encompasses what makes the ideal player or allows you to play in your best form, and that's probably diet, meditation now, practice, mental fortitude. You're just opening up all kinds of other questions that probably gonna have to talk about it again for sure, and get into it. But man, that's duh. It's kind of like a delayed, that's a big deal. What goes on mentally, and that's, I think the only two people that come close was Kenny Cox, and I asked him like, dude, you're like a warrior, like you fight, you're super tough, you just love the battle. How did you become that way, or were you born that way? And he just talked about how in high school he was not at all what he is now, and that just took from the decision one day to be like, I'm gonna get tougher, and just continuously exposing himself to those situations and toughing himself out. And we see the end product. We see Kenny, this monster guy who's chucking balls at 80 miles an hour, and he loves being hit in the face. Like, that's really strange to me. Glenn's kind of the same way. And then I think the closest was Alan. He I think I kind of pinpointed to when he said, I want my whole focus this year is to give Rise a championship. And not saying it was like the secret or like it happened because of quantum mechanics or whatever, but like he mentally made the decision to work his ass off to make that happen, and he contributed to it. So yeah, there's a lot to be said still and brought up in future podcasts about the mental aspect, and you're just giving me all kinds of good questions to ask now. So one day we can dive even more into it. Oh yeah, no, we have to. And then also just like, how do you, like, what workouts are there, and what diet is there, and what do you see builds the best player, and how do you stay in shape, and how do you stay fit, and how do you stay active? Because again, like the players that put the time in between now and March, we'll see them in March, and we'll see the ones that didn't. And for all the people that want to whine about, I can't play against Ketchum, he's too good, it's like, well, get better, put the work. What are you doing about it? Or, man, I'm so tired of seeing Doom and Rise taking first and second. Well, what are you guys doing about it? And some teams have been, and you can see the difference already, and it's exciting to think about where it'll be 2-3 years from now. So
right, exactly. And Ketchum is a really good example. I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it, but observing and just seeing the physical, not just the physical changes he's made in his own body from whenever I saw him last year to now. There's something mentally that happened where he decided, you know what, I'm the best player, but I can be better. That's what separates champions from just the average person in general. So I'd love to pick his brain about that and just see what his goals were and how he's gotten to where he is now. But I think, also teaching people that you can get to a goal, but that doesn't mean you can become complacent. You can get, however good you are in dodgeball, but there's always somewhere to improve and get better. And that complacency will hold you back. So can you fight through that? Can you push yourself beyond? But I'd like to see people try, and that's the goal.
And I love how you said that. So people have their New Year's resolutions. They'll join gyms. They'll go once. They'll never come back. They'll get intimidated. They'll go for like 2 or 3 days and then they stop. But then some people just have that that point where they've for whatever it is, they've had enough. Like they are on a mission now, and they get that momentum and they don't stop. And I would love to know, and I didn't think about it because I don't think he was doing this when I interviewed him, but I want to know what Ketchum's moment was, or Kenny's moment. Like, okay, you decide you want to be a tough guy. What went on mentally to make that decision happen and give you the conviction and the drive to continue going? Is there a word for that, or is there like in your industry or your field, is there is there a phrase or a way to describe that you know of?
What, that aha moment?
Yeah, just that aha, I'm going to go to the gym now because I'm driven, or I'm hungry, or I mean it now, or that's one thing I'm really fascinated with.
I if there is, I can't think of what that word is right now. I guess aha moment is really what I'm thinking of, but yeah. It's like, where is it, like that fortitude, where did it come from, where did it spawn from? And like some people are born with it, some people have it, and others don't, which is why it's so easy to sign up for the gym on January 1st and never go back.
Yep.
That's the easy way out. It takes a lot more than just showing up sometimes. Showing up sometimes is sometimes the hardest thing to do, but at least you got your butt in there, and now I'm going to help you. Getting to that place of also kind of like acceptance of, I'm not where I want to be, but I need help, and I need someone to help me push me to that. That is a sign of strength, in my opinion, as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, shoot, you going to Bree saying, how can I get better? That just shows that warrior mentality. Like, I want to get better. Don't give a crap how humble this makes me. It doesn't bother me. Like, I will get better because I'm going to do what I need to do to make it happen. Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I could probably go on for another hour and a half, but I think just on that whole aspect, man, if you think of, if you ever come across that, let me know, because there's something about that special moment, whether it's just a couple seconds that happen, that will carry you through going to the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week, or will carry you through those moments where you don't want to get up or you don't want to go for it. But it's a powerful thing that happens to people, and when you see it in them, it's inspiring, and it's just like, man, it's just so incredible to watch.
That never quit mentality is something that I aim to get people to get out of people. Like, I'm never gonna quit. I'm going to push myself as hard as this is. I'm going to do it.
Well, I don't know how you feel about this, but we'll call it the Kramer moment for now until
let's do it.
until we can think of or find the real moment. But I mean, that works for me. Just talking to you for the last hour and a half or so.
Definitely.
Well, I mean, that's all I have. I definitely need to do this again, though, especially for season 3. So let's go ahead and end the interview there. When I imagine the dodgeball athletes in the future, 5 to 10 years from now, we're watching them in the Olympics, hopefully, or through streaming or whatever medium delivers the content to us. I feel like we're going to go ahead and be able to pinpoint to this time frame, 2016, 2018, in which people have begun taking on personal trainers, organizing practices, and modifying their lifestyles to put in the work outside of the dodgeball court, whether it's through their open gyms, rec and competitive leagues, and say this is where it started to evolve once again. We've made the comments in OG panels and whatnot where we could watch like the highest level of competition from 2005 to 2012 and say these teams have no idea what they're doing. They look so lost and so just unorganized. And now we start to see the strategies and the levels of and displays of athleticism that are really separating teams like Doom and Rise from teams that are lower to bottom of the pack, but also the teams that are starting to move up as well. And it's incredible. I want to say thank you so much, Brenda, for hopping on again. I feel like you provided a very solid interview that kind of alludes and kind of maybe, I don't want to say almost prophesizes what the future of dodgeball is going to look like, but I really am happy and grateful that you were able to hop on and help me produce this episode. Like I mentioned during the Ball Precap, there were so many tempting rabbit holes to delve into. I just could not help myself but have a separate one. So thank you again for that. And also thank you for maneuvering to quieter areas throughout the interview to avoid some of the sounds of the city. I just feel like you were providing so much gold and solid takeaways that it just had to be heard and recorded as clearly as possible. Moving on, though, for those listening, let me know if getting into the weeds, as we did with some of the workout strategies and practices that players are engaging in to help make themselves better, is something that you'd like to hear about. I know I said, I think in the first episode, I want to go in through all kinds of just specific dodgeball stuff, but pending feedback, that's basically how I will decide what we should cover or what we should go into. So, and speaking of that, at the time of this episode's release, the survey should have gone out by now, should have been posted on both the group and the page. And so if you have taken it, thank you so much for doing so. And you have not, or if you have not, please take a few minutes to do so and let me know how I can make this podcast better. As I'm wrapping up season 2 and looking at my plans for season 3, I do realize and acknowledge that we're telling the dodgeball story through my perspective, and there's a lot of bias that I have. So I want to just see like what else or how else can we help mitigate that and actually just get as much coverage as possible, or just see like who else should be on the interviews and who should be on the panels, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll leave it at that. Take the survey, please. And then, we'll see where that goes. But that all being said, have a great rest of your Friday evening, a great weekend, and we'll see you next time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dodgeball Podcast. In this episode, I've been fortunate to bring back...
Bring her back!
Let's try again. 3, 2...